Good morning, everyone. We are going to just present how our trials have went this year. This is the first time that we have ran the UDL trials within our school district. Rachel and I partnered with running the UDL trials with the Neenah Middle School. We uh, partnered with the Calypso sixth grade house. How we run a house system at Neenah Middle School is that we partner with the ELA team, math, science, and then a special education teacher. So we have all student groups represented within a grade house. And then they're assigned an administrator that helps represent that team. And then the administrator that supported that team throughout this process was Braden Fredrickson. How we went and chose this team is that Rachel and I, early on in August, presented the trials to our district administration and presented what the UDL trials was and what our purpose was to help provide access to all for all learning and how we can bridge our gaps and try to close that achievement gap within our students. And then we asked if they were interested in partnering for the UDL trials, and the answer was yes. And then we move forward to ask what schools would be interested. So we asked the elementary schools, middle school, and high school, and the Neenah Middle School was most interested. So then we presented the trials to the administration team, both the principal, Jenny Kennecke, Braden, and Kristen, who are fifth and sixth grade, and then David and Tim, who are our seventh and eighth grade. Uh, we presented what the trials were and the process and what our objectives were for trying to help bridge that gap for all students within the learning cohort, and they agreed to move forward with the trials. And then we asked how they would like to approach the teams and educators, and that's how we then approached Calypso to organize a team moving forward. And then if you can move to the next slide. By the time that we were able to move forward with the trials, we were in that November, December time frame. So we had to move forward with a semesterized roadmap because we were not able to begin the trials until January. So we were looking at building that capacity for what the trials were and understanding for what UDL was with that team. And one of the trials and communication barriers that we experienced was that we had to really condense down our time because we only had really 35 minutes at the beginning of the day to meet with our Calypso team. And so our goal was to have two rounds of a PDSA cycle within the UDL trials and establish a baseline and understanding of UDL within January, run trial one within the March, and then try to get in a second cycle by that May timeline and have the cycles completed by our showcase. We then looked at that co-teach, co-plan to co-teach model, and then focus on a student engagement goal. The team focused on the idea of they already wrote clear and concise goals, so they wanted to move forward with a student engagement focus going forward with the UDL trials.
I'm going to go ahead and start with our glows. So what ended up happening is we hit some roadblocks in timing and just being on the same page and having everything worked out. So we decided to pause for the year. I think we had gotten our baseline data in on trial one. And then we came together and had some conversations and realized that we had some pre-learning to do before we initiated the UDL trials full scale. Some glows that came out of that where we worked with some really great experienced teaching teams who had had some access and experience with UDL in the past. They were very passionate about seeing their students, all the struggling students, not just students with an IEP who are struggling and looking forward to their growth. Um, they had some experience with writing goals, and what those looked like. Um, Another help was that I, as the instructional coach, was part of implementing the UDL trials at a different school district. So I had familiarity with the process, and that kind of helped with the long range goal of what that would look like. And then administrative were there to support us in the project and the ideals going forward. And another glow was that Katie and I felt a lot of support when we were meeting with the UDL trials monthly mentor support meetings. We got a lot of ideas, reflection, hints from that. And when we were reflecting after we paused, we realized there were some grows, some areas to improve on before we implement next time. As Katie had said, we had 35 minutes um, before school, but that was monthly. So, for example, the first, I think on the roadmap, the like the whole introduction first meeting is supposed to be about 1.5 to 2 hours worth of time. We had to split that up over several half-hour meetings. So it was very disjointed. So if we could grow in that area, that would probably be a solution to some of our hiccups that we had. And also a growth would be a structure for more productive discussions moving forward, data-based, staying on task for what the trials were. Um, a grow for next year is although that the information was fragmented, it did provide opportunities for insightful synthesis and deeper understanding. So essentially created just-in-time conversations about how things were authentically going, problem solving in real time, because we were doing such little chunks at a time. And then another area of growth was that scheduling. We needed to ensure that all stakeholders were present and that everybody understood their role and contribution to the process. One thing with our scheduling once a month before school was that it did not provide access to all of our administrators to join. So there were pieces missing for them as well as we went on through the process.
My apologies, I was muted. So going forward, we are excited to see where we can implement not only the UDL trials, but UDL best practices. We have an administrative team that is dedicated to that process and serving, providing access to all for all students. So when we are looking at where do we want to go, looking at scheduling fewer but longer blocks of collaboration time. One of the barriers was that disjointedness and that fragmented time. So we want to ensure that when we have that consistent communication and dedication to providing that professional development for staff, not only building administrative capacity for what the UDL process is, but how it can support student learning and closing that achievement gap, I think is essential. So we want to not only establish a UDL process, but professional development for learning, but also embedded within our practices that we currently have and what our structures currently support. So, what does that look like in terms of a phased approach, in terms of a year one, year two, year three process? And I'm excited to say that we have a PLC. And professional development process in terms of a 3-year implementation going forward, and our administrative team is supporting that process going out. And then we want to have that clear communication that allows for staff to feel supported, I think is essential going forward. Because that lack of communication, that consistency between administration, ourselves, and our staff really need to understand that process and how that build out from that onboarding of UDL, that clear and concise goals, and how that can lead to the increased student engagement, which helps close that achievement gap. So I think for us going forward, we want to build in collaboration, clear communication, and allow us to have embedded professional learning model that supports that cultural responsiveness for all learners. And I think our district has learned a lot from this process, and we're excited to see where it goes as we build in the systemic approach for that UDL framework going forward.